Welcome to Wetpixel Live. My name's Adam Hanlon. I'm the editor of Wetpixel, and I'd like to introduce you to Alex Mustard. Hi, Alex. How you doing?
Hi, Adam.
You been
Hey.
diving today?
No, not for a few days now.
Oh, it's a shame. So I was diving yesterday, so I feel very smug now.
Yeah. But sorry I didn't ask.
So today we're going to talk about how we carry out our post-trip maintenance on our camera systems and housing systems. And I know Alex has enthralled us with tales of how he takes his housing in the bath with him after trips. So I thought I might ask him first of all about sharing his bath with his housing.
Well, I never use a bath at home for myself. I always use the shower.
Ah.
But our bathtub is very valued because it's placed at the underwater. Well, both my daughter and the underwater camera gear get a good workout in the bath from time to time. Both are quite willing, actually. So with the camera gear, I think the one thing I'd say is I think at the end of a trip, it's a really good time to give the gear a really good soak in water.
Yeah.
And I typically tend to leave it in from one day to the next. Yeah. So I'll fill the bath up with cold water. I'll put the camera gear together, but I won't put things like batteries or cameras in the housings. That's just taking an unnecessary risk. And what I typically do is I'll go and get a piece of diving lead. Or if I haven't got one of those, I'll maybe just go and get like a tin of chickpeas or something from the cupboard, wrap some bubble wrap around it and put that inside the housing so the housing sinks down. If the housing's floating on the top of the water, as it typically will do when it hasn't got a camera in it, yeah, it's not going to be soaked as well as if you can get it to the bottom of the bath. So if you put something inside it, wrap it up in bubble wrap or in a T-shirt to protect the functioning on the inside of the housing, that'll hold it down to the bottom, and then it'll all have a really good soak. Yeah. And I don't know what difference it makes really from giving it a couple of hours to 24 hours, but I definitely tend to give it that overnight soak. If no one else needs the bath for 24 hours, I'll put it in one day and take it out the next day, and then give it dry it off properly afterwards. I think though, just to take a step back a minute, I think a really important point to make is if you're someone like you or me, we tend to be diving a lot. A long gap between trips is just a couple of weeks, and we may even squeeze in some local diving between that. Right. And so our cameras and housings are in the water all the time, whereas a lot of people who do underwater photography maybe get the chance to dive 1 week a year, maybe a couple of different trips during the year. Yeah. And as a result, their gear is going to sit and get bone dry for 6 months in between trips. And I think that changes a lot how important this end of trip, post-dive trip, sort of clean down really is. And the less you dive, the more important all these procedures are. Yeah. And I never take the O-rings out of my housings between trips because typically I'm diving so regularly, it seems pretty pointless. But I do think if you've got long gaps between trips, it's really worth doing some of that extra maintenance, like taking O-rings out after you've soaked them, obviously, and then grease those O-rings up and put them in a Ziploc bag, and then put that Ziploc bag back inside the housing. Do not risk going on your next trip with the Ziploc bag still at home with all your O-rings in. Yeah. So that goes back inside the housing so you can't possibly forget it for the next trip. And I think that can be a really valuable thing to do. A thing we mentioned in the strobe and arm episode is if your strobe arm clamps are getting a bit sticky, another Ziploc bag, WD-40, and seal them up. I wouldn't leave them in there between trips for so long. I don't know what it would do. But just a week or so, and then get them out, wash them down, and dry them off. I think that's quite a good maintenance thing. And then the other thing that I'm thinking of, sorry to keep chatting, is batteries. Yeah. And I generally try and make sure that on the last day of a trip, when I'm packing up, I'll put all my AA's, or battery packs for my strobes, all on charge so that I'm going home with them all full. And if it is a really long gap between trips, I think it's well worth getting them out and using them for something between trips, or at least giving them a cycle on a charger. And I know you've got a really nice charger for doing that.
Yeah, so I'll zoom in on a bigger screen just to show everyone. So this is it's quite an old charger actually. It's made by PowerX, but there are lots of other ones out there. And this actually has a restore cycle on it. So it depends on what the battery chemistry is that you have. And certainly things like most camera batteries now are lithium batteries. And in actual fact, they don't like being stored fully charged. So it's a good idea. Equally, don't empty them, but somewhere in between. So the classic is they say 90% charge is the crucial thing for long term storage. So if you have a way of using your camera a bit, letting a bit of charge out before you store the battery, that's actually the best thing to do. And that's with lithium batteries. The majority of rechargeables that we use tend to be either NiMH, nickel metal hydride, or nickel cadmium, NiCd, and both of those are happy to be stored fully charged and actually don't really like being stored partially charged. So it's a good idea, as Alex says, after the trip to get them on the charger as soon as you can, get them all charged up. As I say, this charger actually has a restore cycle, and quite often what I'll do, either just after a trip, during a trip, typically batteries don't get used for their full cycle. We do a dive, we come out, we empty the batteries out the strobes, charge them. So they're not going through a particularly good charging cycle from a battery chemistry point of view. So by using a restore function on a charger like the one that I've just shown you, that allows you to address that balance. And basically it goes through a series of charge and discharge cycles and builds the batteries, or deletes the battery's memories in order to get optimum performance for them. But yeah, the big trick really is not to store them partially empty. They need to be stored with some charge in them.
Okay. The other question I wanted to ask you, because actually I want to learn this as well, because you know more about this than me, is I want to see some of your lotions and potions that you use to keep your gear in fine fettle.
And to keep myself looking youthful as well. So.
Well, I think you're pretty effort on the camera, to be fair, mate.
Yeah.
So show me.
So I'm glad you asked, Alex. So the first one, I'm sure most of you have multiple different manufacturers.
Hold that up a bit, Adam. I can't see it.
How's that?
Yeah.
So most of us have multiple different greases from different manufacturers, and certainly, and to be fair, O-ring grease. Sorry, yes, that's it. This is O-ring grease. And to be fair, this is because different manufacturers use different materials to construct their O-rings out of, and there are a number of different materials. So, and different greases have different effects on different materials. So this is why you end up with a whole bunch of different tubes of grease, and that can be logistically a problem. It also means that if you use the wrong grease on the wrong type of O-ring, it can cause all sorts of problems, including making the O-ring swell, which means that they tend to extrude and leak. So quite an important thing. So this is a company called Tribalube. They're an American company. They've produced a grease. This one's called Tribalube 7171. It's actually
it took them a while to get to that one then. 70 other attempts.
Yeah, they had a few prototyping problems.
WD-40, they did better, didn't they? Got there in 40 goes.
Yeah. But essentially, it's originally designed for rebreathing. It's an oxygen-compatible grease. Not that that's relevant to us as photographers, but you can use it on any type of O-ring. So it's a universal O-ring grease. And so the great advantage of this is it eliminates that problem of which grease am I using on which O-ring, and you can't get it wrong. And I think that's a really, really useful thing, both at home and in the field, to be fair. I mean, I carry a tube of this. I should point out it's ferociously expensive, but it lasts an awful long time.
Right. This is underwater photography. How much? Come on.
I think last tube I bought was around about £45. So
that's not that bad.
And it's not a big tube, but I should say that I think in my entire, I've been using it for quite a few years now, and I do use it on rebreathes and things as well. So, and I think I've gone through 2 tubes, so it goes a really long way, and we only use a tiny amount on each O-ring. So in actual fact, when you divide it out by the length of time you have it, it's not that bad. And really, really simplifies O-ring maintenance, though. It's a really good idea.
What's the next potion?
So the next potion is something I discovered fairly recently, and whenever you've got, particularly with aluminium housings, you've got by definition dissimilar metals, and the problem with dissimilar metals is that one will tend to bind into the other. And this would, for example, where you've got stainless steel bolts holding the housing's handles on, you use stainless steel bolts to attach accessories to the housing, so on and so forth. And one way of preventing them from binding and seizing is to use a grease. And I've just recently found this grease. It's called Lanogard, and it's a marine grease. And it's designed not to be washed off. So you can apply this to threads of bolts or any place you've got dissimilar metals where there's a possibility of corrosion happening. It doesn't wash off, as I say, it stays put, and it prevents that corrosion, that material corrosion from happening. So it's really, I think, a really good idea.
You have to put links to these in the show notes, actually, underneath the video on YouTube.
Not particularly expensive, not in the real scheme of things. This would be something, so I would normally do this pre-trip, so before I go on a trip, and post-trip once I've rinsed. And that just keeps everything working, make sure nothing's seizing in. As Alex mentioned, if you're diving regularly, that may be a little bit of overkill, but I don't think it does any harm, and it's 2 minutes for the job anyway. So,
anything else in your cauldron?
the other the other potion is this, and now it's quite often, particularly those of us with electric strobe connectors, so S6 or Iconis connectors. A little bit of moisture gets in, you get a bit of tarnishing happening on the contacts. This is a contact cleaner, which first of all removes any, will remove moisture if you've got moisture in the contacts, which is possibly something more in the field, but certainly cleans up. But also this particular one is designed for using with gold contacts. It's actually designed for people with high-end hi-fi equipment is what it's really designed for, but it's bizarrely a similar application. And what this is, it just cleans up and makes sure that those contacts of your strobes are really really clean and helps prevent misfiring, helps prevent, obviously if you've got rubbish in the strobes, and particularly verdigris from the water, that can make the strobes flash independently and you get all sorts of strobing effects and stuff. So again, quite a useful tool. This is just a spray, it sprays on the contacts, cleans them out, and you just leave them, spray it on, leave it, it evaporates the moisture off and gets rid of the gunk. So again, a useful product just to help keep your housing contacts, electrical contacts in top-notch condition. I'm just inviting Alex back to the conversation.
Adam.
You're welcome.
Looks like your time at Hogwarts wasn't wasted.
There's one other thing I was going to mention, and Alex and I slightly differ on this in terms of our rinsing, in that I actually put hot water in my bath to rinse my housing with. And the goal here is if there is any salt crystals, it will help dissolve them. Now, I don't keep it hot, so I put hot water in and then, like you, leave it for a day or so. And it obviously cools down at the time. But the idea is by using hot water initially, it helps to dissolve any crystals that may have formed since I've been travelling back from wherever I've been back to home. So yeah, I think there's lots of ideas there. Is there anything else you want to say about housing maintenance, housing storage?
I think it's a topic we need to address again. There's a lot. I mean, I think we should do something on travelling toolkits and spares to travel with. Yeah. But I think that's a good place to leave this one.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks very much, Alex. So thank you to you all for watching. I'd like to thank our sponsor of this episode, which is Reef Photo in Florida. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed what you're seeing to get notifications when we produce future episodes. Obviously, like the video. And if you have any comments, please add them to suggestions underneath. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you next time.